Enter the realm of legend. Enrobed in the mythology of a lost tribe, the Palace of the Lost City has enthralled generations of guests over a 3-decade celebration of the epitome of African luxury. Billed as the first 7-star hotel in the world, on opening its iconic 8-meter-tall doors to a glamorous African fantasia in December 1992.
Sol went overseas. He found some architects in America. He brought them out here. Then they came up with some Moroccan-looking building, and he said, no, that's what he's not going to build. Jerry Allison worked for the Walt Disney, who was the entertainment genius, and Jim Langenheim worked for Howard Hughes. He was his chief architect, and those the two architects sat down together and came up with a concept. So after that, they just drew a forest with little towers sticking out of the forest, and Sol said, oh, that's great, that's what he likes.
The architecture of the palace is astounding, and if you want to tick things off your bucket list, there's 5,500 man-hours of hand painting in the ceiling of the atrium as you walk in. So, there's so many different aspects of the palace, but it's architecture and the vistas from all locations in the palace.
Yeah, well, Sol asked for the jungle, let's say, and then he didn't know what to put in. We put a palace, Lost City, and then actually I even gave him a book on the Lost City. That's how the name came about. Lost City of the Kalahari.
And I've walked around this hotel for many years, and it always astounds me that the architects actually visualized a lot of those views. Every corridor has a unique view, every room has a unique view. From an overall perspective, the experience of Sun City as a whole, the forests around the palace pool itself, they're all magnificent in themselves.
This pearl of the Pilanesberg evolved to become a true South African gem, as synonymous with the country as wine, wildlife, and natural wonders beyond anyone's wildest imagination. Except, of course, Sol Kerzner's.
In 2004, I was fortunate enough to be running the resort. And Sol came to visit. I had met Sol once before, but very briefly, and I didn't really know him. He didn't really know me. And I said, Mr. Kerzner, this is going to sound like a really, really strange question, but when you were designing and building the palace, you had a certain vision for what the palace would look like. When it was finished, did it turn out the way you envisaged? And he looked at me with these steely eyes and he said, exactly.
It was an unbelievable experience working for Sol Kerzner. He was tough, but as tough as he was, he had a soft spot in his body. He knew what he wanted, he had great vision, and what he wanted, he got.
For me, that's a lasting memory for me of the connection between Sol, the visionary and the creator of Sun City, and where we stand today with the palace celebrating its 30th anniversary.
It took the graft of thousands, along with 30 million bricks, 1.2 million plants, and 150,000 meters of piping to realize the Sun International linchpin's dream.
And the palace has been, I think, a great success. It was a very expensive hotel to develop at the time. In today's money, it's actually very inexpensive and represents fantastic value for money. But it was a place where people used to view the architecture, the interiors with awe. I mean, it is an amazing palatial building.
The 27-hectare resort was completed in an unprecedented 28 months for 830 million rand, a steal in today's terms. Adorned in murals and mosaics, master craftspeople outdid themselves to produce a resort that offers a new experience and picturesque view from every angle. With its imposing 70-meter King's Tower, the hand-painted masterpiece that is its dome ceiling, the shimmering spectacle of Shau, the African elephant, and swirls of indigenous and exotic fantasy gardens, the palace was a hit from day one. The melodies from the Bösendorfer piano, once played by Liberace, the gleam from the rock chandelier in the Crystal Court, the dazzle of the singular Pilanesberg sunshine. The palace is a sensory banquet.
The 30th of the Palace anniversary means a lot to me because I was employed here as in when it was built on 1992. I started here as a security guard. I made my way up, joining the food and beverage team as a waitron, and currently I'm the assistant food and beverage manager, and that gives a perfect path that I had with this hotel.
Treated like royalty, guests worldwide are drawn to the magnetism of this crown jewel of the sun. Rock rebels, Hollywood heavyweights, political powerhouses, ace athletes, and average Joes have all experienced the best of Africa over the years. It's not uncommon for patrons to yearn to stay on forever.
Robert De Niro. Yeah, so it was 2003. I had just gone back to Sun City to run the resort. And I got a call from Jerry Anzarello, who used to run the resort when I first arrived at Sun City in 1995. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm at home." He says, "Can you take Robert around the resort?" I said, Robert who? He says, "Robert De Niro." I said, "Okay, yeah, sure." And I meet Robert De Niro in the Tusk Bar. And there he is sitting in the Tusk Bar with unshaven. He's got his baseball cap, and I meet him and I tell him about the palace. We have a cup of tea, and then we start walking around, and there he's got this camcorder. You know, it wasn't phones, there was camcorders. And then he's on the phone to his wife going, "Oh, honey, you won't believe this place. Look at it. Wow, there's an elephant. No, it's not a real one." So here's this megastar kind of eating out your hand because of what he's seeing at the palace. So again, that's just an illustration of the magnetism and the power of this amazing place.
How many ultra-luxury resorts can claim to have a Big Five game reserve, a fantasy forest, world-class gaming, and a wave park on its doorstep? When you throw the traditional Tswana hospitality of the region into the mix, it truly is a compelling proposition.
The thing about the Palace of the Lost City, it's Fantasia, isn't it? It's Fantasia, it's the Palace of the Lost City. It's an exciting experience. And what we've been able to do is bring that back to life, or actually evolve that design and bring it up to date with Sun International. So that's been a great pleasure.
In addition to the Palace's world-class facilities and services, we've added on in the retail space additional stores, a gym, and a spa. This will mean that the customer does not need to leave the palace while they're staying with us.
I think it's uniquely African, and in the context of South Africa and South African hotels, you know, it's beyond anyone's wildest imagination. And I think iconically, if you haven't stayed at the palace, then you haven't stayed.
The customer-centric approach is that we're treating our customers as kings and queens at the palace. So we're giving them the best experience that they would expect, and we also go an extra mile to that.
There is no other Palace of the Lost City in the world. And I think as a South African, I feel incredibly privileged. It's part of our heritage, it's part of our history, it's a treasure to this country.
There's no time to rest on laurels though. The palace was refurbished in 2022. No easy task, given the distinctive decor. With each of its suites draped in Versace and brushed gold design elements and incorporating a spa and gym, the hotel is ready to welcome a new generation of patrons.
It's all about the African print. It's all about the essence of Africa. There's details in the room that we have changed, and there's details that we haven't. There's been a lot that we've restored. There's been a lot that we've maintained in the room. And we've brought it up to date in terms of the wall cladding, the new wallpapers, new fabrics. We've celebrated South Africa by using wonderful Ardmore fabrics on the beds. And there's details in the room. The biggest change in the room has actually been the bathrooms, which are all brand new, beautiful classic design that are very suitable to the interior.
Inspired by the legendary lost city of the Kalahari and envisioned to last 1,000 years, the palace begs to be rediscovered time and again. It's a place that encourages one to dream. 3 decades on, the palace remains South Africa's dream destination.